I guess I'd like to start with one of the more obvious aspects of
Mm.
some of your work, which
Mm.
is the Suikoden series. And I mean, they're so fantastic and they're so special,
Mm.
and I mean, they're so fucking well executed.
Thank you.
What gave you the inspiration and the desire to make those, and how did you come to marrying those two different cultures?
Um, the initial culmination of that particular project, I think, stems from uh, obvious interests and immersions in those two cultures.
Uh-huh.
Um, Living in Los Angeles, obviously Chicano culture is prevalent as hell.
Right.
It's a phenomenal culture. It's beautiful. It's rife with phenomenal history, but also connected to Tattoo Land's history, which
Right.
has a
And it's very localized, which is really neat.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is where it's born.
well. Long story short, yes. This is the beginning of the professionalism. Tattoo Land would be the beginning of the professionalism of that genre involved in
No, I
that
just meant the
culture.
genre in general. Like,
Yeah.
Los Angeles is the birthplace of, like...
It's debatable. I believe so. Obviously, our legacy of Tattoo Land would say so as well.
Yeah.
But yeah. So there's that aspect, and I come from more of a realism background. Um, I also come from a deep appreciation of Japanese culture and artwork in general.
And where does that stem from?
Mainly toys and cartoons from being a child.
Okay.
My dad would take me to Japanese toy stores, and there's obviously when we were kids, Transformers were a thing, Robotech was a thing, but my dad was like, well, that's actually this, so took us to toy stores to find, oh wow, this thing that I thought was this American thing is actually a much more intensified Japanese thing. And just getting into that.
So your father had a decent understanding of culture.
Yes, most definitely.
That's really
Both
cool.
my parents were wonderfully supportive.
That's really neat, because I think that a lot of people we talk to, or in general, they don't have that kind of young, eye-opening kind of pathways explored.
I agree. Yeah.
That's really cool.
No,
I didn't
super.
expect that, actually. I expected your Japanese influences to come from your immersion in tattooing, and then to be exposed to the Japanese, aspect of the world of tattooing through there, not as a child.
No, definitely as a child. Definitely as a child.
That's cool.
But don't get me wrong, not intensely. It's not as if when I was a child he was putting me in Japanese school and now I'm learning.
To be aware of that, I think, is
Absolutely.
interesting, because I think for a lot of, like, just Americans, growing up, you don't think about Japanese toys or Japanese culture when you're a kid.
Yeah, it's a toy. Yeah.
And, you're just lambasted with American cartoons as a kid, and you're, exposed to that culture.
Which, once again, I mean, that was the initial seed. Transformers or Robotech.
Sure.
Most definitely Transformers. I mean, those were huge for a young child.
Right.
You got a vehicle. Kids love vehicles. You got robots. Kids love robots. You got them turning into each other. Oh my God, now this is great. Now you got a whole story involved. Oh my God, this is great. And obviously the way they were built, there was a tactile sensation that was fantastic. But once again, my dad knowing like, oh, well, he's liking this. Let me take him over to some of this and this. And then me and my brother, of course, just getting as involved as we could, finding model kits and this and that. So, and then they would take us as often as possible. I don't know how often, but, any museum shows and whatnot. They did their best to educate us on
culture,
art culture and world culture as much as they could.
Cool.
They're both very artistically inclined, both creative individuals, phenomenal parents and intelligent human beings. So they raised me and my brother quite well.
Sounds like you had a really blessed.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, in a lot of ways, like
100%.
Not only that, but having the artistic bend passed down in a very direct way.
Yes,
that's really cool.
And then back to the realism aspect too. I mean, when my parents saw that I was drawing and stuff like that, my mom would as often as possible get me, oh, here's an anatomy book. You're drawing superheroes. You're drawing figures. Learn what the figure is about. So, anything from the Visible Man to the Visible Head, where it's showing, I don't know if you remember those model kits, but, it was all of your organs and your bones and your vascular system and everything, and then this clear thing on the outside. So once again, you have this tactile thing, hand-eye coordination thing, but you're also learning about how does this work? And then different books that are peeling all that stuff open and giving you the exploded view of all that. That's all interesting. And definitely led towards, wanting to be a creative individual and draw all the time. Plus comic books. Once again, there's all those connections. I mean, all this stuff overlaps as cultures do.
Sure.
You know.
When did you start drawing?
Immediately. From what they tell me, as soon as I could put a marker in my mouth, I was, fucking around with it. My own personal recollection of any of that stuff was definitely looking up to my elder brother. He drew all the time, so I want to draw. He did this, I want to do that. I mean, that's kind of your standard,
right?
Brother system or brother sister system and whatnot. So I'm lucky enough to have had an older brother who was creative as well. I tended to do it more. I really gravitated towards it, and once again, with supportive parents who, give me what they could and show me what they could. They nurtured the hell out of that. But all that leads up to predominantly, once again, with the figure and with anatomy, just wanting to understand how to do things realistically. First understanding form, then understanding how light lands on that form, then understanding color, and, all these different steps to create whatever the fuck is in your head or whatever couldn't exist. And then in tattooing, obviously, that was, especially in the late 90s, starting to become more and more and more realistic. I mean, if we look at the 70s realism, that was what was the most realistic at that time. Same with the 50s, same with the 40s. You go back to George Burchett stuff. He did some stuff that was on par with the 70s, But if we look at the stuff from the 70s to now, I mean, it's night and day, but you got to have that context, So anyway, so deep involvement and interest in black and gray tattooing. Eventually seeing, while working as an apprentice, seeing images of Japanese tattooing as well. And it's hard not to be struck by the power of that stuff. I mean, it demands that you view it. It demands that you look at this. It's black, it's powerful, and it's everything tattoo should be. And that clear definition of what a tattoo is stems once again from being a kid. I had a National Geographic book about Native American tribes throughout the States and the Americas. And when I was a little kid, I'd constantly just copy the European paintings of the tribesmen with all of the different geometric markings on them. So same kind of powerful connection there. You see this, and what you have is skin and then markings on that skin, super bold and super clear. So seeing Japanese tattooing was the same thing. As much as I was caught up in the subtlety and realism and the picture that's right here, and I'm going to put this picture here on this person. I mean, that's not to say that that's wrong. But as soon as I saw a much more big picture kind of way of tattooing, it's like, fuck, there's something here. This is really special. So got into that, started to really realize, like, oh, wait, these are both kind of stemming from outlaw cultures. And what are these particular images that I'm seeing over and over and over and over again in some of these books that Stan has, or some of these books that Jack has in the back, or some of these posters? Seeing a lot of repeated imagery. Why am I seeing all this repeated imagery? So then trying to understand Japanese culture as much as possible. There's all these layers to it. Eventually found out about the Suikoden. And the Suikoden stories being related to outlaw culture, and those stories constantly being revisited on people who lived an outlaw lifestyle, similar once again to the Chicano culture. Most of what Tattooland was trying to really bring forth was, stories and myths and aspects of Chicano lifestyle, and bring it onto the skin as beautifully as possible. And so were these Japanese stories. So just seeing that there was something there, and trying to dig as much as possible into understanding both aspects, both motivations, both techniques, both histories, both storytelling, but really delicately, because still super young in the game. I think I was 4 or 5 years in, maybe, starting to travel, starting to get opened up to what is possible in tattooing, and trying to make mistakes and trying to, be as big and as bold as humanly possible. And seeing that it was okay to do as a foreigner, or as someone that's not directly linked to that culture, through going to visit Philip. Philip, I think, you have experience with Philip. He's wonderful at explaining how much reference he uses and how much other people's work he'll use in his own work and he'll learn from, and knowing I might not know that story, so I'm just going to do my own thing with it instead of telling that story wrong, and it's like, okay, he feels comfortable with that. No one in any of the cultures that he's utilizing is saying that it's wrong. Okay, so that's something to take into consideration.
Right.
And then, of course, on the Chicano side of town, working with Chicanos, saying, like, not telling me to, like, hey, stay in your fucking lane, but getting support and me supporting them and back and forth. This was now really talking about tattoo culture. And tattoo is another, black, white, in between. It's a whole other culture in and of itself that is a we, as opposed to, oh, that's them over there and that's them over there. As much as a geometry tattooer might be over there, that's still my brother or my sister or whatever, because this is tattooing, So just constantly just seeing these little connections, but still trying to do it as delicately as possible, because, hey, this is something that I don't know if I have the right to say or the right to discuss or the right to explore.
Right.
And even if I did, who the fuck would get this tattooed? So a big part of that project in the beginning of it was, there's the right way to do this and there's a wrong way to do this. The wrong way, in my opinion, was to just say, oh, I got this fucking idea of these things that connect, these two very powerful, deep cultures with all this wonderful history, and I can just slam them together and do whatever the fuck I want with it and say it's about me and do a painting or a drawing or whatever. Or I can go, well, what's this really about? It's about tattoo. Because these stories and these issues and these different groups of people, one of the major links is tattoo. So the proper way to tell this story is through tattoo. Only other way would maybe be woodblock print, because once again, there's a direct connection. Or if I went the Chicano route, maybe all ballpoint pen.
Right.
And that could still kind of work, but we're still, like we were saying before, or like I was saying before, we're removing the tattoo aspect. And tattoo is such at the forefront of what is gluing all this together. Basically, played around with it on paper, put it to the side. Eventually, decided to, maybe like a year or two later, decided to bring it back out and maybe actually start, fuck it, maybe I'll do a painting of it. So I was playing with the photocopier at the shop, and one of the guys I worked with, Ben Grillo, saw what I was fucking with. I explained most of what I'm saying right here to him about all this stuff. And he was kind enough to be like, man, I'd get something like that on my leg. So that was the first time I ever ran into anybody who was even willing to give up skin. But part of what I had explained to him was, if this is going to be done, it needs to be done right. And if we're going to be respecting traditions and utilizing traditions, we need to do what they would do. They wouldn't just slap some shit on a thigh or a fucking calf. You'd start with the back, and we're telling a big story. So, whatever, about a week or so goes by, and he comes back and he's like, man, I did a lot of thinking about, like, what you had said there. Like, I have my back. You want to just do my back? So that was, door and the floodgates were open.
Yeah, that was really a kismet moment.
Yeah. And I mean, that obviously meant a whole hell of a fucking lot, because now I get to finally, like, you have ideas and you want to put them out there. And if there's a right way to do it in your head, you don't want to do it the wrong way. So,
right. Now you got pressure.
Yeah, which is good. Finally I can really put this forward and really make this work. And before we even started there, I want to say sometime in between me sort of giving up a little bit and to the time he agreed, was like, okay, shit, now I really need to, like, do the research to find out, am I going to be redoing someone else's idea? Have I sat here and just thought that I had this good idea?
Right. But
the fucking badass people before me, Ed or Bob or Philip or anybody,
right,
how did they not fucking do this already? So of course, luckily, being part of the Tattoo Land legacy, I've got the ability to ask those questions to our elders.
Right.
So I started with Bill Salmon, of course, and Bill said, no, never seen that. That's really fucking neat. This and that. If anybody's done it, it's fucking Ed, And I had met Ed maybe twice.
Uh-huh.
but I didn't know him well enough to like just cold call him.
Yeah.
Anything
but
like
you got
that.
Jack for that or Bill.
Exactly. But even then, to go through them, it's like, okay, the time will come. So I asked as many different elders as I could in as many different facets as I could to find out, has this been done? Because the only thing I could think of that was close to it was the Rockabilly Samurai that Ed had done.
Right.
Right. But that, no disrespect to Ed at all, that was just, piece on the forearm. It wasn't this thing like he does.
It also was, it only had a touch of what we're talking about.
Sure. I mean, at the most, it was the mashup or whatever.
Right. Which was amazing.
No, absolutely. No, that was groundbreaking at the time, and that was also inspirational at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got stuff on my body that I had drawn when I was apprenticing that was to that end, where it's just like, this is neat. It's sort of anime. It's sort of these 2 things that I love, or these 5 things I love, and we're making a cool image. Right. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with just doing a cool image.
Yeah.
Ever. I absolutely respect anybody who just wants to do a cool image. But for me personally, and for this particular idea, it was really important, especially as a white male, not to just shit on a bunch of fucking cultures that I don't have a specific blood connection to.
Right.
Because these are deep culture. I'm talking, if we're starting with China and the story, fucking 9th century or 8th century is when it started, and then it finally gets published something like 14th century or 12th century. So, I mean, we're talking old just on the story.
Right.
Then we get into Japanese tattooing and the depth of culture there, the Chicano experience in general, the Mexican-American experience, the Mexican experience, any of that here in Southern California. I'm just going to shit on it and be like, dude, I'm going to take your fucking raza and I'm going to take this fucking cool thing. And no, that's wrong. Like, that's not the right thing to do for my own gain.
Right.
And these are the kind of things that were taught to me over tattooing in general, is there should be a level of respect to what we're doing, especially if you love it. Don't just shit on it. So to finally find out, like, no, man, like, this is something that can happen. And then talking to Ed finally, and him saying, man, this is fucking great. I don't know if he said fucking, but he was more than enthusiastic. He didn't just say, oh, cool idea, kid. He took notice. We discussed it a bit. He said, I'm on the right path. And at the most, I had this idea to do that back when I owned Tattoo Land. I think I was going to do a Tomomori Zoot Suiter, something like that. I'm not sure, like maybe a Pachuco Tomomori. I'm not sure, but I was going to do it, but I didn't even do a sketch. So this is great. You're actually on the road of a tattoo of this, So, basically got the thumbs up from around the globe of the connections that I had, that this was something that could be done appropriately and was exciting and potentially new to a point. And he even, maybe 2 years later, had Khalil email me I think a scan of the note he had written to himself about that Tomomori idea, because I wanted to prove, like, dude, like, trust me, I wasn't just fucking blowing smoke up your ass to, make you think that I fucking came up with it, because people tell stories, of course, and that was neat that he even gave a fuck that much.
That's crazy he made a note. That was serious about it.
He was serious about it.
He's like, this is an important thing to do at some point.
Absolutely, and as we all know, like, that's half the battle. Like, coming up with the idea, great, now do it. I mean, it's always funny to have anybody go to any art museum or art fair and say, I could do that. Cool. So do it. Oh, you didn't do it, and you didn't make all those connections, and you didn't build this giant art career to then sell that for $100,000.
You also didn't do it fucking 2 centuries ago.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah. So this,
it's mostly modern art they talk about like that.
No, of course, with the usual, my kid could do that kind of situation. Like, the banana with the duct tape is a phenomenally good example of that experience right now.
Right.
And, at least half the people, if not 90% of the people that are bitching and moaning about this, saying anybody could do that, sounds good. Build your career. Make those connections. Like, get all of the levels of things it takes to get that sold for $100 million or $1 million or however much it was sold. That's not easy. Putting the fucking piece on the wall, sure, that's easy.
Yeah, but
it's
you have
not just that.
You have to have a conceptual brain.
But beyond just the concept of the art.
Right.
Because any art in general, it's not just the making of the art. It's not just the final product.
Sure.
It is so many more aspects for anybody else to know about it, for anybody to want to buy it. to consider the investment of that. I mean, the art world in general is disgustingly layered with all that stuff that has to be taken into consideration for anybody to want to support it and own that kind of work, versus, once again, back to purity and respect and all that, versus tattoo is pure. You know, anyone wearing it, they're not investing to sell it off later. They're not buying it because it's gonna make them more money later on in the art market, and it's building this person's career up and blah 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 blah. It's this person who's about to wear this, loves this enough to go through the fucking work it takes to get that done, to own it on their skin. No one can take it, no one can do anything with it. And that's as pure as it gets. So we have a wonderful world to work in as artists, to know for a fact the person that I'm tattooing right now actually gives a fuck about my work, versus if we did a painting, drawing, whatever.
Right, and whoever potentially buys it.
Whoever buys it, you don't know all the other things they got in the back of their head of why they want to buy it. They might just want to look cool and just put it in their home, and now they have a story to tell, and then eventually they're gonna sell it. I mean, more often than not, their motivations are financial. But in a tattoo, there's no motivate. You're losing the money. You're losing the time. I mean, you're working hard for oneself to wear that. That's beautiful, you know. So then, you know, back to the 108 situation, to find someone who was willing to give up skin and work with me on this, that was special. Right. And then even to get Jack involved in it, because
how was he involved?
Well, the entire project, as I had sort of alluded to, you know, it's stemming from a Chinese story. So it's not just a purely Japanese thing,
right?
That we're looking at and going, okay, I'm going to do my thing with it. It's, you know, that was a starting point, and that is a major ingredient of it. But the actual starting point is this Chinese story about, you know, corrupt, oppressive governments shitting on its people, and its people realizing that if we get together, we can fight back and fucking make some good change. That's beautiful. And the Japanese in the Edo period, the regular common man, felt that same way. And when it was finally published, and Hokusai originally, and then eventually Kuniyoshi, doing these elaborate illustrations that really spoke to people, and they started reading this book, and they were going, man, that's how I fucking feel. This fucking government just shits on me. These fucking samurais just come through, fucking rip our shit up, take our money, you know. So it really spoke to them. So, you know, all of these different layers basically involved in that. So I got to take that into consideration. What is this story? What is this original story that's sparking all of these different renditions? You know, okay. So how do I take that into consideration if I want to involve Chicano tattooing and involve kind of the Tattoo Land legacy? I consider a time period and consider a location. And this character that I'm making right here in the story, he's kind of a thug. He robs, you know, he runs a little riverboat. He'll rob his people along the way. He'll just stop the boat, take the fucking money, you know, drop them off, whatever. Like, so he's, you know, low-level thug, does his thing. Says, okay, all right. That could exist in 1970s East LA, 1980s East LA. Yeah, sure, okay. Well, if he was this and he was that, he might have, like, some jail stuff. Maybe he's done some time. Or, you know, he might have some stuff, you know, done at home or whatever. But if he lived in that area at that time, he probably would have heard of Mr. Wedo. You know, he might have heard, oh, there's some guys over there at Tattoo Land that are doing really good work. You know, so to kind of link up that story to the timeline, to the time period, consider the reality of the situation that we're exaggerating. Fuck, I should get Jack to do a tattoo on here. And he was down to do a tattoo, so he did a nice chara on the side. You know, so we have...
That's so cool.
You know, just different little layers and different elements that are going to kind of really invoke the actual story.
Yeah, I mean, and then the authenticity just skyrockets in
what
it is.
Which is what I'm going for as much as possible.
Right.
To a certain extent, of course. I'm not obviously learning Tabori to learn how to do this, you know. But, you know, just once again, just back to that story. Just trying to understand what is that and how do we reinterpret that, and what would be appropriate, what would be an appropriate situation, and what would be an appropriate part of that storytelling for this particular character in this scene that we're kind of retelling. And all that stuff is stuff that happens for any Japanese tattooer reinterpreting that image. I've seen those particular heroes, you know, there's three main heroes that you'll see over and over and over again on Yakuza. And there's a reason why, you know, they have really intense stories, or their image is that powerful. The goal of the project is to interpret any and all of the heroes possible.
Gotcha.
And taking into consideration, what is this hero? What do they do in the story? What would be an appropriate adaptation currently?
Right.
Because
what's their East LA cousin look like?
Yeah, yeah.
Or something.
Or just in general, I mean, at this point in the game, because I want to say I'm in the 20s of people involved, upwards to 15 or 20 finished, into the 20s or 30s if we talk about in progress. And in general, at this point too, a lot of different clients have become involved, and
right.
all of them are a wide array of people: white, Chicano, Asian, couple females now, which is fantastic. And to me, that is a reflection of what is happening in the story, which is everybody's getting fucked over, and everybody needs to come together to work. Right. So in the original story, you got doctors, lawyers, cooks, military men, police officers, thugs, murderers. It doesn't matter. All of these different people end up in different scenarios where they find out that they need to be working together to fight corruption. So to then have that reflect upon the people wearing the tattoos, I think is fantastic. That wasn't initially something I was aiming at. Initially, that first one on Ben Grio, of course, was really just about like, oh shit, there's somebody who would be willing to get this tattooed. This is fantastic. It wasn't until maybe the 5th or 6th that I was realizing that the person wearing it was actually wearing a reflection of themselves. Which any tattoo in general should be that, right. And is that, whether you like it or not. But for your back, of course, for a central theme for you to work so hard at, it, in my opinion, shouldn't necessarily be something that you absolutely are not. But initially, once again, that wasn't even in play. Wasn't even a thought. It wasn't until 5 or 6 in that it was like, wait a minute, shit. This guy is that because he does this, this, and this, and that character does this, this, and this. It's not an exact reflection, but enough of a reflection.
Enough parallel.
Another one, oh man, this guy's like the shoot first, ask questions later. He's kind of the guy that's constantly getting reprimanded. He's kind of that's totally that guy. Fuck, this is this person. Like, you know. So now, anytime I'm having a consultation with anyone, I'm hopefully making that happen. Hopefully trying to find what is the appropriate hero that we might be reinterpreting for you. And different clients have decided to get very involved in that process. And different clients have decided, you know what, like, that's fine. I don't really need to worry about all that, you know. So it's certain people who maybe don't care enough or aren't interested enough or want to give me too much freedom, they might get a less involved character versus someone who's telling me their backstory and their life story. And it's like, oh, that actually connects very easily to this person.
Right.
And then I'll maybe, you know, propose that or whatnot. But yeah, in general, authenticity is key. Visiting Japan as much as humanly possible and discussing a lot of motif and techniques and history and all that stuff is helping as much as humanly possible to benefit the outcome of any of my work.
Right.
But definitely with the Suikoden.
And you've worked at State of Grace with Horitomo.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would absolutely, of course, we have Bill and Junie as mentors for the Bay. Taki and Tomo, absolutely mentors as well. I mean, they're the two guys that gave me my Japanese tattoo name, which I never asked for. I never was trying to fish for one of those things. To me, that was at that time, that was a beautiful achievement. It still is a beautiful achievement. I hold that with great honor as much as possible and respect coming from those two mentors. But that was never anything that I was needing to get. Because once again, trying to understand all of these different cultures and how do I fit in with them, that was something that was given to by a master or deemed by yourself, just to give yourself that fucking name over there. Right. Over here, all the rules are off. All sorts of people went over there, met someone for the first time, asked for a name, got a name. Is that wrong or right? Whatever. If you're proud to have it, good for you. No problem. Yeah. You know, all the way over to, and I think this is how I'm sort of playing that game, someone like Philip, I think Mick as well. They both have Japanese tattoo names. I don't know how they got them. My assumption would be either from Horitoshi Sensei or Yoshi Sensei.
Right.
But they don't fly those flags because they're like, nah, I'm Mick, I'm Philip, like that's me, you know.
Right.
So doing a little soul searching with that one, discussing with some certain friends and mentors, are like, you're you, like you've done a very good job being you, just be you, like you don't need to be that as well, at the forefront, maybe keep it in your back pocket. And I was like, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I just spent also with Tomo. I mean,
he's a genius.
I don't think that, not to, well, there's Shinji too, but in the U.S.
Absolutely, yeah.
In the U.S., there's no one you could find that's more knowledgeable as particular about Japanese culture. So
Absolutely.
having him and such proximity.
Absolutely.
And have such a helpful person it's amazing. Right?
Yeah, no.
Unbelievable.
As fortunate as could be.
Right.
Because you nailed it on the fucking head. If we were on the East Coast, Shinji, all day, every day, that would be the source for all of the East Coast. Horitomo, all of the West Coast, Right. And if you're lucky enough to try to gain a relationship with either one of them, fantastic. I'm blessed to know both of them and call both of them friends. And they're both wonderful human beings.
They're so cool.
On top of
so
being
chill.
Geniuses, on top of being masters of their craft, on top of being bastions of their fucking history and legacy and tradition. I mean, and watching that kind of lifestyle go down was part of what made me not want to go full force into getting a name and holding a name, go full force in attempting to learn Tabori.
Right.
That's a very sacred, beautiful traditional path to follow. And if I was just to sort of give it a try and throw it away, man, back to what I was saying before, I'm not trying to just shit on these cultures. This is beautiful. You got to do it. Especially when we're talking about Japanese culture, man. If you do it and throw it away, oh my God. You've disrespected not just yourself, but your family and your shop or your fucking town or, the amount of...
everything.
Yeah.
And the teacher's lineage.
Exactly. So there's a lot at stake.
Because the people above him are going to be like, you taught that person?
Absolutely.
Like, are you stupid?
Absolutely. Yeah. so it's a delicate dance.
Yeah.
All of that is a delicate dance. So I'm lucky enough to have done that dance with this project and found that our elders and mentors are not just okay with it, but supportive of it.
Yeah, because they're great people and they see the authenticity you want to achieve.
Yeah.
And your earnestness and your humbleness in it. And I think it's easy to root for and help people that come from that space. So I think it's easy for them to help you because they see how hard you work to make it as best as possible with this vision. So I think it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, I'm, like I say, blessed to have them, super fortunate to have them around, and have them be open enough to even say a damn word about it.
Right.
That's one of the hardest things, I think, is just gaining audience with some of these people and hopefully, depending on your relationship with this person that you're asking, hopefully they're going to be open enough to be honest with you as well.
Right.
Because, I mean, I'm sure this happens with you. If I don't know about these days, how people approach with, take a look at my work. It used to be, look at my portfolio.
Right. Look at my
now it's maybe, look at my...
No, really,
look at my
Instagram. And you're like, oh, this is a bummer.
Yeah. Which, but in the end, what are you trying to gain from me right now? Are you asking for a pat on the back? Are you asking for
I ask him that.
Yeah, because I know you are going to rip them a new asshole if they need it ripped, because your goal is the betterment of our community, and we don't get better. Exactly. By helping them, you help the community. By helping them, you help any person that walks into that person's shop to get tattooed.
I didn't think about it like that. It's a good point.
To me, that kind of honesty is beneficial to fucking everybody, So at the moment, you may be looking at it as just that person, but by potentially helping that person, you then help everybody else, Same with our clients. By doing good work on one client, you're potentially helping the rest of everyone get better work.
Right.
Because they're seeing that and going,
they're communicating.
That's where I should have
This is what a good tattoo looks like. Yeah. And if the person has the wherewithal to understand and to differentiate. Some people don't, and that's okay.
Yeah.
They can see a really great tattoo and a terrible one and be like,
same,
I think it's the same.
Yeah.
But like, I like that one. I get it. That's cool. And that's fine.
Yeah. It's all, no matter what, with any of this stuff, any of the arts, and I mean fucking any of the arts.
Absolutely.
It's all opinion.
Yeah.
Fuck a fucking award. Fuck the Oscars, fuck the Emmys, fuck any of that shit, because there's no best. It's all good, or it's all shit, or it's all over the place. We don't need a fucking award, you know? And even if you felt that we needed a fucking award, well, what was at stake? What was on the fucking docket? And who was judging it? You know? So, like, yeah, none of that fucking matters. You know, if you love your fucking piece of garbage that you paid a fucking 6-pack for, and you don't want to pay our rates, I am not mad at you. This is great. Because if you're about to want to have an argument, I don't want an argument. I just want to let you know, great. I want you to go back to that guy.
Yeah, and in the beginning, at the bottom of that is the desire to be marked.
Yeah.
And if you're getting a mark that you like, then that is as valid and legitimate as any other one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Know? So, you're discussing the Suikoden, and I thought, you were looking at you mentioned redrawn comics when you were a kid.
Sure.
Did you read a lot of comics when you were a kid?
A fair amount.
Okay.
Fair amount. So I wasn't like really intense.
Sure.
Loved comics to death. That's another thing I got from my dad. He basically brought me up on Crumb.
Oh wow, cool.
So
a little less Marvel and stuff.
Like got into some Marvel-y stuff, got into some DC kind of stuff, but mostly like more on the Dark Horse side of town, more on the like.
I don't even know comics that well.
Either way, unfortunately for me, the interest of comics was never the story. It was always the art.
Gotcha.
You could have recommended to me the best written comic in the fucking world, and you would have handed it to me, and if the art didn't say shit to me, I would have been like, thanks, right, and maybe get around to it at some point. I mean, even comics I had that were beautifully written and beautifully drawn or painted, if there was too much text on there, I'm just glossing right over that motherfucker.
Gotcha.
So, like, it was all about the art.
There was a part of me that wondered, because of the Suikoden has a kind of story and spirit that we see a lot in comics.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I was curious if there was some kind of tie-in, maybe even subliminally.
I'm sure.
Okay. I was just kind of curious about that, because it just occurred to me when you said the comics earlier, if the comics then influence you in a way that you're attracted to the idea of...
I guarantee you that's
people,
in play. Yeah.
Fighting the good fight.
I guarantee you that's in play. I guarantee you it's, unfortunately, though, a little less on the subliminal side of town, a little less about fighting the good fight and way more about the impact of the image.
Sure.
Because
I can
same as the Japanese public, when I saw any of those Kuniyoshi prints,
right?
I mean, I'll show you my Bible over there. Like, Stan had the water margin book with all the Kuniyoshi, and I would just pour through it all the time.
Stan, good time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, he's a massive mentor as well, but especially on the Japanese side of town. He's lived in Japan. He's got all sorts of connections to Japan and was a phenomenal mentor of Japanese culture. Oh, no, Stan is
You got a lot of really amazing key elements that got you where you are.
Oh, yeah.
Not discounting any of your
no.
genius. It's pretty cool.
No,
pretty cool.
If I may lean on that a little bit more, anything I'm saying, anything I'm learning, it's not just my curiosity. I've been fortunate to have so many phenomenal individuals in my radius.
Right.
Stan being one of the biggest ones for both the Chikamono fucking experience and the Japanese experience.
It's so cool.
He's the original. I mean, I'd put him in the realm of Ed, of bravery, of just fucking going there, with minimal connection and just doing it and building those connections, building those bridges, learning way more and more and more to eventually, I mean, he wears some of the most beautiful Japanese work I've ever seen in my life. His whole arm, his whole back, and his front are done by one of our friends, Horiken. And this is Shibuya Horiken.
Okay.
As I'm pretty sure there's a million Horikens, a million Horiyoshis. It depends on where they are, all that, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So he wears, like I say, some of the most phenomenal work I've ever seen, and it's done all by hand, no machine. Whereas we normally know most people doing tabori are going to outline with machine and then fill by hand.
Sure.
That's rare, but what's even more rare is someone to do it entirely by hand.
Yeah.
And this dude's been doing it forever. And Stan gained a beautiful relationship with that guy and got all this work from him. So, any chance you get, you're like, Stan, pop your fucking shirt off. I got to see that back piece again.
I wish I would have asked. We didn't know.
You'll see him again.
Yeah,
and you will see easily one of the most beautiful back pieces you've ever seen in your life.
Cool.
And it's also a phenomenal example of someone's idea of mixing cultures. Stan, raised Catholic, proud Mexican family. He basically thought, you know what, I want like a Rock of Ages, but the way Horiken would do it. So he has a rock, water, sky. So the viewer is the person trying to get that rock, trying to fucking finally have that fucking security. But it's the simplest, purest, most exquisite back piece you've ever seen. And it's all done by hand.
That's cool. And it's conceptual. I like that about it.
Yeah, it's all of the layers.
That's really neat. That's really neat.
And then on top of that, too, Stan's been smart enough to like keep nearly 100% of his body black and gray. And like, it's just, it's a breathtaking piece. But I was lucky enough to have Ken do my whole leg. But
have to show us later.
Most definitely, it's some of the most exquisite work possible. And that kind of stuff, too, the getting of the work, that's a major influence on how to go about any of this stuff, too.
Absolutely.
Because we haven't even discussed technique with any of this stuff.
Yeah, and we're not going to.
No, which is fantastic.
For this, yeah.
I appreciate that.
But yeah, getting tattooed,
so beneficial to one's work,
Obviously, people were like, I want to learn how to tattoo. It's like, do you have tattoos? No.
Exactly.
Well, how the fuck do you think? Shut up.
Yeah.
Like, just even shut that dream down.
Yeah.
Until you're wearing some tats, then you can talk about it.
Yeah. It should have, the conversation should have started with, I want to have tattoos. I want to get a tattoo. I mean, shit.
Or it should be like, I got 3 tattoos. I really like them.
Yeah.
I want to learn how to do it.
Sure.
Or whatever. And not fucking, I want to learn how to tattoo. I don't have any yet.
Yeah.
Because I'm a real particular person. You're like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. It's just, it's unfortunate.
Quote me.
Please quote him. I mean, this is the truth right here, Because it is important, I think, for anyone to have some level of appreciation of what tattooing is and not what's being sold to them as currently this fashion item.
Yeah.
That's what's really disgusting me about the state of affairs currently, to a point. Like, for example, with the project I'm doing, I took any and every effort, and I'm still currently taking any and every effort to do this with respect and dignity to the cultures applied, to my own work, and of course to my client. And posting about it is the last thing on my fucking mind. And there's a lot of people out there, I'm assuming because they haven't been taught any of our history or haven't been really guided or mentored in any particular way. Their goal is, I got an idea. I think this is cool. What do you think? This would be a great post. And that's your end game for a tattoo, for something someone's going to wear for life?